You know that feeling of constantly hitting snooze, rushing through your morning, and feeling behind before your day even truly starts? And I know it's not because you're lazy or undisciplined, but because your internal narratives about what's possible before 8 a.m. are actually sabotaging you. We really need to talk about this. And look, I'm not here to fill your head with cheap motivation or tell you it's easy. It's not. But there's a different way to approach your mornings, a way that transforms your entire day. If you're sick of generic advice and truly want to understand how some people consistently crush their mornings, stick with me until the end. We're going to deconstruct some fundamental beliefs that are keeping you stuck, wondering why your productive peers seem to have a secret sauce you don't. It's wild how much we let our inner stories dictate our reality, especially first thing in the morning. Think about it. When that alarm goes off, what's the first thing your brain tells you? Is it, ugh, another day, I'm so tired, or, there's no way I have time for XYZ before work? This isn't just a fleeting thought, these are deeply ingrained narratives, internal explanations you've built over time, and they 100% determine your actions. This is the foundation of personal development, how you perceive the world, and more specifically, how you perceive your morning, shapes everything that follows. We often believe that productive people are just morning people, or that they have some innate discipline that we lack. And that's a huge paradigm to break, because it's simply not true. I used to believe that too. For years, my morning narrative was a chaotic mess of, I'm not good at mornings, I'll never be one of those people, and, I'll just catch up later. Guess what? My mornings were a chaotic mess, and I never caught up. The problem wasn't my alarm clock or my willpower, it was my limited internal repertoire of explanations. My mental file cabinet was full of excuses and past failures, not possibilities. It's like trying to build a new house with only half the blueprints. You have a vague idea, but you're missing crucial details, and eventually, you just give up because it feels impossible. Your limited repertoire of explanations for why you can't be productive before 8 a.m. acts exactly like that. You see others achieving things, and your brain immediately jumps to, they must be special, or, their life is easier, instead of asking, what internal story are they telling themselves that I'm not? This isn't about being lazy, it's about being constrained by a mental framework that tells you there's only one way, your current way, of experiencing the morning. And that's simply not the truth. The world isn't static, your perceptions don't have to be either. But how do we even begin to change those deeply held stories? That's the real question. So, if our internal narratives are running the show, how do productive people hijack that process and create a different story? Here's where the concept of good you become comes in. This is about understanding that you don't have to make decisions or take actions based on who you already are. Instead, you can choose to act based on who you are becoming. It's a powerful distinction. Most people wake up, feel tired, and say, I'm a tired person, so I'll hit snooze. A productive person, however, might wake up, feel tired, and say, I'm someone who is building a consistent morning routine, so I'll get up and move, even if it's just for 5 minutes. They're not waiting for motivation or for their current self to feel like it. They're enacting the identity of their future self. This isn't some magic trick, it's a deliberate strategy. Think about it, who you are today is a result of your past explanations and actions. But who you will be tomorrow is determined by the explanations you choose to build and the actions you take today. This principle of progression versus preparation is what unlocks action. Too many of us get stuck in preparation mode, waiting to feel ready, or be a morning person, before we actually do the things morning people do. But the truth is, you become good at something by doing it, not by waiting to be good first. You become a morning person by consistently getting up early, even when it's hard. I remember when I first started trying to establish a consistent writing routine before 8 a.m. My initial narrative was, I'm not a morning writer. But I reframed it, I'm a writer who is developing a consistent morning practice. The shift was subtle in words, but massive in impact. It gave me permission to be bad at it, to struggle, but to keep showing up because I was building toward an identity, not just trying to force an outcome. It's like planting a seed, you don't wait for the tree to grow before you water it. You water it because you believe in the tree it's becoming. This reframe, this internal permission to become, is the key to breaking free from the narratives that currently limit your morning potential. But how do you actually construct these empowering new explanations? That's the practical next step we need to address. Alright, so we know our internal narratives drive our actions, and we've understood the power of acting from the perspective of good you become. Now, let's get super practical. How do you actually construct good explanations that give you clarity of action, especially for those crucial hours before 8 a.m.? The key here is to catch yourself when you use a limiting explanation and immediately reframe it into an empowering one. Here's the difference. A limiting explanation often sounds like, I wasn't born for this, or, I just don't have the discipline. An empowering explanation, on the other hand, is, I haven't learned how to do this yet, or, I'm in the process of building that discipline. The first one is a dead end, the second opens up possibilities. This isn't about positive affirmations in a vacuum, it's about logical recalibration of your internal dialogue. For example, instead of saying, I can't wake up early, which is a statement about your fixed identity, try, waking up early is challenging for me right now, but I'm experimenting with strategies to make it easier. See the difference? The latter frames it as a solvable problem, not an inherent flaw. Let's apply this to common, before 8 a.m. scenarios. 1. Getting out of bed *. If your explanation is, my bed is too comfortable, I just can't, reframe it to, my body needs gentle persuasion to start the day, so I'll put my alarm across the room and do 5 deep breaths before I touch my phone. You're not fighting who you are, you're understanding and strategically working with your current self to build your future self. 2. Planning your day *. If you usually say, I don't have time to plan, I'm too busy, that's a limiting narrative. Reframe it, allocating 10 minutes now to plan my top priorities will actually buy me hours of clarity later. This acknowledges the time constraint but shifts the perception of value. 3. Focused work / personal project *. Maybe you tell yourself, I'm not creative in the morning, or I'm not productive before coffee. A good explanation would be, my creativity takes a bit to warm up, so I'll start with a low-friction task for 15 minutes before 8 a.m. and build momentum. This manages expectations while still initiating action. This process involves a radical validation of your current struggles without allowing them to paralyze you. I know it seems difficult because we're so used to these automatic thought patterns. But when you consistently challenge those old narratives and replace them with explanations that grant you agency and a path forward, you start to see real shifts. It's not just about what you do before 8 a.m., it's about why you do it, and what story you're telling yourself as you do it. This conscious construction of explanations is how you gain clarity and finally take strategic action. So, let's bring it all back to that early morning struggle, that feeling of being constantly behind. Remember when I said it wasn't about being lazy, but about those internal narratives? Well, everything we've talked about boils down to this: your internal narrative isn't just a byproduct of your experience, it's the architect of it. The truly productive people aren't just doing 5 things before 8 a.m. They're operating from a completely different mental framework. They've consciously or unconsciously built a repertoire of explanations that empower action, not paralysis. They understand that their perception of the world, and their morning, dictates 100% of their subsequent actions. It's not magic, it's the consistent application of a deep understanding of self. We deconstructed the myth that you're just not that kind of person, or that productive habits are innate. That's a huge disservice to your potential. Instead, we shifted to the powerful truth that good you become, meaning you act from the identity you aspire to, not just the one you currently inhabit. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to define who you are through your intentional actions, not be confined by past definitions. You don't wait for motivation to strike, you build a structure that makes action inevitable because it aligns with the person you are becoming. And we got practical about how to construct those empowering explanations, turning "I can't" into "I haven't learned how yet" or "I'm figuring it out." This isn't about shaming you for past struggles. I've been there, stuck in that loop of self-sabotaging narratives, feeling like I was constantly fighting myself just to get simple things done. The change didn't come from forcing myself to be someone I wasn't, but from understanding why I was doing what I was doing, and then strategically changing the narrative. When you truly grasp that your mind is not a fixed entity but a dynamic, mental file you can continuously update, you gain immense power. You don't have to be an outdoor billboard for other people's expectations or past failures. You get to be the author of your own story, starting with those critical hours before 8 a.m. This clarity doesn't promise an easy life, but it promises a life where you are in control of your choices, understanding the profound impact of your internal world on your external reality. This shift in mindset is foundational to any real, lasting transformation. Look, I get it. This might sound like a lot, or perhaps you're thinking, I've heard versions of this before. And that's okay. What I'm asking you to consider is not just the information but the methodology behind it. It's not about consuming more content, it's about shifting your deepest internal frameworks. You are not destined to repeat the same ineffective morning routines or be stuck in a cycle of procrastination. Your capacity for change is immense, but it starts with this simple, profound understanding: the stories you tell yourself about your capabilities, your time, and your mornings are the most powerful forces at play. This transformation isn't an instant flick of a switch. It's a snowball effect, where each conscious reframe, each small action taken from the perspective of good you become, adds to a growing momentum. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be willing to start questioning those old, limiting explanations. Give yourself permission to experiment, to fail, to learn, and to slowly, consistently build those empowering new narratives. This isn't about being superhuman, it's about being human, but aware. Aware of the power of your own mind, and brave enough to wield it for your own growth. This is about building a life where your mornings are a launchpad, not a battlefield. This is about taking back agency, one early morning decision at a time. And believe me, that feeling of stepping into your day already ahead, already aligned with your intentional self, is absolutely priceless. If any of this resonated with you, if you feel that spark of recognition, I'm not going to hit you with a generic like and subscribe plea. But if you're genuinely ready to keep exploring how to apply these deeper principles to your life, I invite you to do two things. First, comment below with just one old, limiting explanation you're going to try to reframe starting tomorrow morning. And second, if you want to join a community of people who are serious about authentic transformation, not just quick fixes, consider subscribing. It's not about numbers, it's about building a space for real growth and shared insights.